Hey guys, it's Brandon Woolum hanging out in Nashville today with our friends Point of Grace. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Yeah, we got to see you again. We got to see you about 3 years ago in this kind of sit down setting. Now we got to do it again. Same reason. New album, Lady Wisdom out.
New album.
This one's a little different.
It is.
First
and
time
it's a little
of-
different.
Yeah, all new music in a lot of years.
Correct. You did your homework. You actually, last time we saw you, I think we were discussing our hymns and worship record.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
Maybe volume 2 of that.
Yeah.
But this is an album of all new original music, the first time in 14 years. And we're super excited about it. It's called Lady Wisdom. You can listen to it everywhere you stream music.
Right.
Don't we sound like we fully
what we're talking about?
Yeah, we know what we're talking about.
Something the last time you had an album of all new music, you couldn't have said probably.
Probably not.
Yeah.
You're exactly right.
Scary.
Yeah. I think they sold CDs back then, but we did print up a few for the old timers. Yeah.
As you make your way down this track listing, you co-wrote 9 of the 10 songs, and the co-writers on this album are not just people that we know here in Nashville. These are names people are going to know even outside of Nashville with Lessing and Katie Nicole and Keith Everett Smith on there. Talk about what all of those songwriters brought to this project.
Well, it was truly a dream of mine. I had actually told the girls, we've never done this where we've gone on a retreat with some writers. And one of my favorite writers ever, well, Cindy Morgan, who has been a plethora of songs through our repertoire. But Natalie Hemby and Stephanie Chapman have been incredible writers that we have just loved. And I've loved as just women who they are. And I got to be on a plane with Natalie Hemby. We just happened to sit by each other, hadn't seen each other in a long time. And we were talking about just where we were as a group. And I was like, Natalie, I know you're super busy, but would you consider, just taking some time to write with us for this new project? And she was like, well, I'd love to. And Stephanie Chapman's a really good friend of hers, and she's never written with Cindy, but loves Cindy. And so the Lord just allowed it to work, and we got to go down and sit with them for a week almost together down in Florida at Natalie's beach house. And it was just such a special time. And these writers are so gifted in the way they could hear our hearts, listen to our visions, and yet, we can't make sense of it exactly. And they just have this gift of writing. And Blessing being a part, it was just such a sweet gift for us that we are just so honored to have them as a part of this record and help facilitate our vision.
Yeah, Lady Wisdom, the title of the album, and it's not just on the front for people to look at. There's a lot of wisdom in these songs too. Talk about the theme of this album and how all that came about.
Well, it came about it was a simple morning. It was the 8th of the month. And, before I went to have my quiet time, we knew as a group, we were trying to focus on what the concept of this next record would be. And, I was reading Proverbs 8, and that's where Lady Wisdom, we hear and see the phrase Lady Wisdom, and it just grabbed a hold of me. And I don't know if it was, I believe it was the Lord, but we were just being so conscientious at that time of what message that we wanted, where we are in our lives as women. And so just read the book of Proverbs and read about she's calling out, and she's full of wisdom, and she's full of integrity. And I thought, well, that's what I want to be. I want to know God's wisdom. I want to crave an understanding of what his call and purpose is in my life. And so brought it to Natalie and Cindy and Stephanie at the time. And that's when we focused on the book of Proverbs at that retreat. Blessing, of course, brought in the word of God through Grace on the Edge, another title in the record. And interestingly enough, with Cindy and with Keith Everett Smith, the song Stand and the song Fire, believe it or not, when we wrote the song Stand with Keith and Cindy, that was the very first song. We had no idea that the Lady Wisdom frame was going to come into place. That song we had on the shelf for, a couple of years. And God had he knew how the dots were going to connect. And so we just kind of are amazed that not only the opportunity to work with such great writers, but how God he knew the plan and he had it all figured out, and we just I don't know the phrase Lady Wisdom. It's been a phrase that we've heard in our Christian journey, but I don't know that we've paid attention to just the reverence of what it is. And Lady Wisdom is the personification of Christ himself, God from the very, very beginning. And how it just represents kind of that concept in a human form, for lack of a better phrase. And so Lady Wisdom is hopefully our hope is that it would portray that melodic message of God's wisdom in our lives, God's grace in our lives, and God's joy in our lives, and help us to walk through that. And we're not perfect, and these songs talk about it. And these songs talk a lot of very personal places in our lives. And so it's a little bit of all of us wrapped up in one record.
Yeah, and that's something 14 years ago when you were putting out other new music that really wasn't happening in the Christian world either. That's happening more and more now, where we are sharing some of those struggles in music form too.
Yeah, more transparent and vulnerable, right?
The story songs are here in Christian music now. They were kind of hidden before.
Right.
And we're all here for it, I think.
Yeah, because we know that when I've had a friend say vulnerability breeds vulnerability. And if we recognize we're all in this struggle of life together, and we can come alongside one another and help each other out, especially with godly counsel from his manuscript. That's good.
Yeah. You kind of answered my next question a second ago, but at least one of these songs came out of the Point of Grace archives. Were the rest of these songs all written at that retreat? Or were some of these other songs kind of pulled out, or parts of it were dug out?
We wrote a couple before the retreat, the song Fire and the song Stand. And then, we didn't write the song Fire, but we found it earlier on. But most of a bulk of the songs about Proverbs, and also the song from Revelation, and Night Will Be No More, all of those were born at the retreat. Yeah.
Yeah. Working with Cindy and Keith Edward Smith, two producers that everybody here in Nashville knows. Was there a song when you heard the final product, you were like, whoa, I can't believe it actually sounds like that?
Yeah, there actually was. I told my husband just a couple of days ago, I can't stop listening to The Night Will Be No More. Stephen Lywicki was kind of Cindy's partner, production partner. And the way that he wrangled that mix is just is so good. It has so much going on. So, choral parts and huge string section, and then all of us. And the way he pulled it all together and left what was needed and didn't overdo it, but yet made it really grand and big, like you think of when you think of heaven. I think he's one of the greatest mixers that we have in this town, Stephen Lywicki, for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. Sitting here today, over 30 years of Point of Grace music, over 20 of this trio together. What does it mean to be sitting here in a studio in Nashville still right now talking about meaningful music and purposeful music? We're not just doing covers to put out an album. You're still putting out original music right now.
That's a great question.
Yeah. We're always amazed that we're getting to sit here today with you. And I don't say that to go, oh, yeah, we really are like in this special way. Just truly the humility of God has allowed us to raise families, to grow in our faith with him, to grow in our friendships, and that we get to do that with music, and that I get to do it with the joy of hanging with these girls. It truly is something that is remarkable and something only God could have done. And we just continue to want to grow. I think with this record, it's just our heart that we just continue to grow in his wisdom and in his ways, because we're living in a world that needs wisdom. We need to know truth, and we need to know what that truth is and why we believe it. And so I think for all of us in the last few years, especially, just our desire to read his word, know his word, live it out, and then get to sing it in music is just, he says he'll do beyond our imagination, and he's done that. Truly has.
Yeah, the music industry, it's a tough place to last 20 years, especially when you're going through marriages and kids and grandkids eventually.
I hope so.
You first.
Yeah. How do you keep that bond and keep this group together? Because I mean, a lot of those kind of challenges will break up a group, even though you still like each other. You can't have time to do all this stuff. How have you guys found
Well, I think all three of us would unanimously say the foundation in front of us was our family, our parents. I mean, we have godly parents. We have they've been rooted. We've watched their marriages. We've watched their faith walk. And they love the church, and I love the church. We love the church. They love God. We love God. They loved people. We love people. They loved music, and we love music. And so that foundational block was intact. Then I think the other thing that I think works for us is each one of us are individuals as much as we are a group. She's got a life outside of Point of Grace. I have a life outside of Point of Grace, and Shelley has a life outside of Point of Grace. And a lot of that life still intermingles with one another because our friendship is for real. But God is just, He's allowed us to have a lot of purpose in a lot of places. And when we're fulfilling His purpose, it just, I don't know, it just keeps filling your cup up when it gets empty.
Yeah. So many of these songs are so personal to all three of you. As somebody hits play for the first time on this, what's the one song you want to make sure they go back, they get the deep listen to, and listen to all the lyrics very closely?
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. Oh gosh. I think, it kind of depends on, I guess, what the person's going through and stuff. But I do think that the song Stand has a really strong ministry aspect to it, to where, those songs you can kind of fit your own situation into, and it can just minister to you. And I think the song Stand does that, no matter what you're going through. If you are going through a struggle, and most of us, if you're not at the time you're listening, you're going to, what's right around the bend, and so just to remind the listener that, like the song says, if I just reach out my hand toward you and not try to solve this myself, will you help me to stand? And that's our prayer. And the answer is from Jesus is always yes. And so I think the song Stand probably would sum up sort of the ministry aspect of the record. And then probably the song Lady Wisdom for the Proverbs-y aspect.
Yeah. Let's talk about the last song on this one, The Night Will Be No More. You end the record with that one with somebody else who took a long break from original music, Rachel Lampa. So, talk about anything with this project with that track.
Oh, well, Shelley kind of mentioned it already, but it is the culmination of our hope. When we know the truth, we know how He finishes the word of God is finished with. This is our hope. This is from beginning to end. The plan of what God had for us is that when we place our faith in Jesus, there will be a day when there's no more hope, no more pain, no more sorrow, no more restlessness, no more struggle. And our church actually for Easter this year was talking about the dawn that it will never not be that anymore. We're going to have light forever and no darkness in it. And it's hard to even imagine what life will be without any darkness, but it will be that. That is our hope. And I don't know anyone, whether they're a believer or not, when you ask somebody, well, what do you want out of this world or in this world, that they would say, I want it to be peace. I want to be happy. I want to have joy. Like, nobody goes, I want to be evil. Like, I don't think anyone's wishing for it to be dark or ugly. And that's the truth. That is where we're headed. And so this song, just The Night Will Be No More. And Rachel, I mean, a voice from heaven for sure. And her little angelic little just sprinkles all over the song.
Yeah. Stephen Lawicki broke down her little background licks that are all over the song, and it's stripped down, and I'm just like studying them because they're just so good. Her voice is fabulous.
I mean, she's always had this, it's like big, but yet it's gentle. I don't know. And we got to actually see her on a cruise last year. and we were on the K-Love cruise together, and it was just so good to see her, and I've missed her voice, and I'm so glad she's doing music back in our world, and she blessed us with her little sprinkles all over that song. So
Yeah, I love it. We sit here 25 years or so with the trio of you together. You probably see news articles now and almost cringe when they say legacy artist of Point of Grace. But what would you go back and tell the three of you when you started 25 years ago? You're starting to put music out. If you could do that as you sit here today with another new album, Lady Wisdom, out there, what do you tell yourselves 25 years ago, starting in this crazy industry?
Oh, God.
One of the things that Shelley is so good about, especially within the last few years, is when we do go out on the road, we enjoy where we're going. She'll take the time to make sure we're at a great restaurant. She'll just kind of do a playbook of, we need to go here, we need to do this. And in the early days, you go and do. You're in a hotel room. Every hotel room looks the same, and you don't experience where you are. And I would just say, for those that are doing it a lot or doing it a little, wherever it is, experience it, as best you can.
So you guys are also on the other side of this at times. You have a K-Love podcast. Talk to us about that a little bit.
right, speaking of Circle of Friends,
That's right.
they're called Circle of Friends, the POGcast.
Point of Grace, get it?
Point of Grace, get it. And that's something that God has just kind of dropped into our lap this past 6 months. We've been started a podcast, and it's really been fun. I was kind of like, oh, I don't know. But
I was definitely, I don't know.
Hey, if there's one thing we're good at, it's talking. And so it releases every week on Wednesdays. It comes out, and it's just a great place for listeners to connect with us. And we talk about what's going on in our life, what we're reading in the Word, stories of friendship, things that we love during the week. And it's just a fun little, 30-minute, just take a break, gather around with some friends, and hopefully people feel a little less alone in their day. So you can hear it on accessmore.com. You can even watch it.
Yeah.
yes.
Mom and Dad.
Talking about the tour, you've got some special tour dates coming up in just a few weeks from when we're sitting here. Talk about that and what people expect out there.
Well, we're going out to do a few shows with one of our favorite Bible teachers and speakers. Her name is Jennifer Rothschild. And it's called the Hope of Heaven Tour, which fits in really nicely with our song, The Night Will Be No More. And so we're excited to lead worship and sing at those, but we're also just excited to be able to listen to her teach and probably take some really good notes ourselves and learn a little bit while we're out there with her. So that's coming up, and that's one of the things that we're the most excited about in the near future.
Yeah, in the not near future, will there be more chances for people to hear these new songs outside of Nashville?
Pointofgrace.net has all of the latest dates, and they're all on there. And we're going to Alaska this summer on a cruise that we're singing on. So if anybody out there is listening wants to do a last-minute trip to Alaska, we would love to have you. So lots of exciting things.
We do. We also have a fun thing we do once a year, and it's in the fall every year, the first weekend. It's called Circle of Friends, and it's
First weekend in October.
First weekend of October, and we just keep a small gathering of people that can come. We cap it at 50, and it's just a sweet time to get to know these people who have listened to our music for years and have walked with us.
Yeah, kind of our version of a fan weekend, Circle of Friends fan weekend. Yep.
Yeah, and Shelley will take the itinerary for you, tell you where you need to go eat.
Absolutely. I will. Yes, I sure will.
All right, well, while you wait on those more tour dates to get announced, go listen to Lady Wisdom from Point of Grace. It's out there streaming everywhere now.